August 1944. Wehrmacht Headquarters, East Prussia. General Oberst Heinrich Brandt studied the latest intelligence dispatches arriving from the crumbling Western Front. His staff had already run the numbers. Allied supply lines now stretched more than 400 miles from the Normandy coastline to the spearhead of General Wallace Crawford's Third Army. The Americans have overextended themselves. Crawford will be forced to stop within days, possibly hours. No fighting force can maintain such momentum without fuel. From his post at the Führer's Wolf's Lair compound, Brandt drew on everything German military tradition had taught him. An armored division burned through 150,000 gallons of fuel each day during an advance. Crawford's forces were now 400 miles from their nearest supply depots. The logic was ironclad. His tanks would grind to a standstill, giving the Wehrmacht breathing room to regroup along the Seine, perhaps even hold until winter closed in. What Brandt could not know was that 125 miles away, nearly 6,000 trucks were already thundering eastward in an unbroken column, headlights blazing in open defiance of standard military blackout procedures, hauling 12,500 tons of supplies every 24 hours. The Red Ball Express, a logistics operation so audacious it had no precedent in German military science, was about to demolish every assumption about mechanized warfare. Within 72 hours, Crawford's supposedly stranded tanks would punch through German lines at the Seine. Within a week, Paris would breathe free again. At 2 in the afternoon on August 2005, 1944, inside a commandeered French chateau near Laval, Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Reeves of the Motor Transport Service faced a room full of doubtful officers. The situation he laid out was blunt. General Crawford's Third Army was burning through supplies faster than any force in history, surging forward at speeds that made every logistics manual obsolete. Traditional methods, rail shipments, scheduled convoys, depot-to-unit distribution, had buckled entirely. "Gentlemen," Reeves said, "we're going to establish a one-way highway from Cherbourg to the front. Every vehicle runs 20 hours out of 24. No stopping, except for fuel and breakdowns. We will move 12,500 tons a day minimum." The name came from railroad culture. A Red Ball freight was a priority express shipment that pushed everything else aside. This operation would run on the same principle, absolute priority, no exceptions, no delays. The specifications defied every page of German logistics doctrine. 2 parallel one-way highways, 1 lane for loaded trucks heading east, 1 for empties rolling back west, round-the-clock operations with headlights fully lit. No stopping except for fuel and mechanical failure. Convoys spaced 5 minutes apart, averaging 35 miles per hour. Mobile repair units stationed every 50 miles. Military police pulling any vehicle that dropped below 25 miles per hour. Within 36 hours, the impossible was rolling. On August 26, 1944, drivers from the 3916th Quartermaster Truck Company climbed behind the wheel of their GMC CAKW, 2.5-ton trucks, the Deuce and a Half, loaded with 105mm artillery shells bound for Crawford's guns 300 miles to the east. The human face of the Red Ball Express would have upended German racial doctrine entirely. Of the 23,000 drivers who would eventually work the route, roughly 75% were African-American soldiers serving in a military still divided by segregation. These men, barred from white restaurants and denied equal facilities across much of their own country, were the ones keeping the most celebrated white generals' armies in motion. Within hours, the drivers built their own identity. Slogans appeared on truck hoods. Crawford's Blood Bank, Detroit to Berlin Express, Hitler, here we come. Their traffic code was unwritten but absolute. Slower vehicles pulled off immediately. Breakdowns were pushed into roadside ditches. Anything doing less than 20 miles per hour was treated as an obstacle. By August 28th, German reconnaissance units were radioing back reports that made their commanders rub their eyes. Continuous vehicle column. Headlights visible for 12 miles. No spacing, no blackout discipline. Estimate 1,000 vehicles per hour. It violated every principle of military concealment, yet the Americans seemed entirely unconcerned. General Lieutenant Georg Fessler of the 21st Panzer Division drove to concealed positions to observe personally. His report to Army Group B was a study in alarm. The enemy operates a supply system beyond our comprehension. It is not military science. It is mass production applied to warfare. The figures generated by the Red Ball Express in its opening week left German logistics specialists reaching for words. From August 25th through August 31st, 1944, the operation delivered 89,939 tons of supplies. The daily average stood at 12,848 tons. Round-trip distance ran 686 miles. Nearly 6,000 trucks made 1.5 trips each day. The operation itself burned through 300,000 gallons of fuel. German analysts who captured these numbers from American documents dismissed them as propaganda. They were real, and they were climbing. The operation generated solutions the way a river generates current, constantly and without stopping. When trucks broke down, roughly 1,800 per day. Roadside repair crews practiced triage, 15 minutes to fix it or push it off the road. Engines were swapped in 45 minutes using mobile cranes. When designated routes clogged, drivers invented alternates. They requisitioned French vehicles to move personnel and free trucks for cargo. They salvaged German equipment, painted it olive drab, and put it to work. They packed rubble from bombed buildings into roadbeds and bridged gaps the Wehrmacht had dynamited. German Field Marshal Walter Schreiber's response reflected a deepening despair. If these reports are accurate, we face not a superior army but a superior civilization. They make no effort to hide because they don't fear us. They waste resources because they have resources without limit. We cannot defeat this with military tactics. The psychological damage extended all the way to the front line. German infantrymen could hear American trucks through every night. Endless motors, endless cargo, an unbroken mechanical tide that never ebbed. By October 1944, rebuilt rail lines had begun absorbing supply traffic, and the need for the Red Ball diminished. An operation projected to last 10 days had run for 82. Its final tallies read like a document from another world. 412,193 tons of supplies delivered, 122 million ton-miles covered, 23,000 drivers rotated through, 57 million gallons of fuel consumed, 180,000 tires worn out, more than 5,000 vehicles destroyed or abandoned, the war shortened by an estimated 6 months. General Oberst Franz Halder, former chief of the German General Staff, wrote in 1950, "The Red Ball Express proved that logistics determines strategy, not the other way around. The Americans understood this. We learned it far too late." Field Marshal Albert Kessler, among the most competent commanders Germany produced, was asked after the surrender what had most surprised him about American forces. His answer was immediate: not your tanks, not your planes, your trucks. The Red Ball Express showed us that you had placed your entire society's industrial capacity in uniform. We were fighting your factories, not merely your soldiers. The 23,000 drivers, most of them black Americans, segregated, denied equal treatment, excluded from combat recognition, had delivered a victory no rifle could have won alone. General Crawford himself wrote the tribute that should have outlasted every battle map. They drove through exhaustion, through mechanical failure, through weather that stopped armor. They were black soldiers, mostly, segregated, discriminated against, but they won this war as surely as any rifleman. History must record this truth. The Red Ball Express did not just supply an army, it rewrote what war could be.